Yes, Rima, I agree with your analysis completely. What and it seems to me like you had this God-given gift in 2002 by this client that told you all that, you know?
Yes.
So you had a source which almost no one had, you know, to get the real input. And what I realize, I take every opportunity to talk with people, even when I'm on a hotline with Apple support, you know, with the guys. At the end, I always talk about these topics, you know, and say, look at ICIC law or inform yourself. And what I realized that even people who are critical, that these crimes that that are outlined are so big that people can't believe it. And my realization is that the bigger the crime, the better the criminals are are protected. You know,
yes.
But nobody can believe it because the human being is basically a good person. You know,
exactly.
It's good, and it can't believe that this evil is possible. And now when I go downtown city, I live downtown. And then I see all these beautiful little babies in the, you know, with their mothers. You know, recently I almost start crying when I look at them and thought, my God, you know, how can we protect these kids for all this shit?
Exactly.
Yeah. But I don't know really how to, because people, they can't believe it, you know. Even if I tell them, they say, yeah, I mean, you know, it's you had another
I do the same thing. I do the same thing with the people on the telephone, the workmen who come to my house to fix my garden irrigation system, right? Absolutely. So here's what I believe we need to do to reduce this massive, improbable reality, which ordinary people can't conceive of, specifically because they are normal people. Psychopaths are invisible to us because we cannot believe that there is anybody who has no capacity to care about something, chick, child, kin, the kitten, the grandchild. We can't imagine how it is to live without the capacity to love, which is so basic to human beings. And the answer is that, unfortunately, these people have surrendered through their own actions or through those of the people who raised them. They have surrendered an essential part of their humanity. So having people understand that cognitively is interesting but irrelevant. What's important is for people to understand it emotionally. Now, it is my genuine, sincere, absolute conviction that nothing ever changes until the heart is involved, and then information percolates up to the head, and that mobilizes the hands. So real change does not come about by talking problems. People of the intellectual persuasion, and the more educated they are, the more true this is, think that by talking about something, they've solved a problem. They become talkative and they're useless. No, that's not how problems are solved. So I believe that we need music, protest music, like the song, No Amount of Evidence Can Ever Convince an Idiot. Look it up. It's hilarious. And it's also true. And it's important. We need memes because that takes the huge concept and reduces it to something small and manageable and funny. We need ridicule. We need laughter. We need irony. We need sarcasm. We need art. We need passion. We need people talking and telling their stories, which is why the stories of the vaccine injured and those whose loved ones were killed in isolation, why these are so meaningful. We have to engage the heart. We intellectually trained people like to engage the mind. It's safe. We're good at it. We get praised for it, patted on the head as we grow up, and that's how you do things, right? No, That's how you don't do things until the heart is engaged. We need the stories. We need the music. We need on preventgenocide2030.org, you will find a page of music. You will find a page of memes, levity, jokes, the ridiculousness of what these idiots are doing. And that's why, but don't call them elite. They're not elite. They're worse than the dog do on the sole of your foot, because they're trying to climb up and take care over your foot. They're disgusting. Don't call them. I really dislike the term Mr. Global. Sorry. How do you do, Mr. Global? Won't you have a cup of tea? Fuck you, Mr. Global is more appropriate. So we need to engage our passion, because no revolution ever succeeded without music.
Yeah.
None. No social justice movement ever succeeded without music. We need that. We need the art. We need Guernica, just this flat piece of canvas.
We don't
An
have a John
understanding in the
Baez
world.
yet, Rima. Rima, we don't have a new John Baez yet.
Yes,
We
we
had-
do.
we had her-
My guitar's in the
and
bedroom. I'll get it out.
We have the guy who, I forget his name. I think it's Anthony something.
Yes,
The
that's-
one that sings Richmond, north of Richmond. It
Absolutely.
is touching everyone.
Absolutely. And
Yeah.
why is it touching everyone? Because it's telling a truth in a way that, by the way, we can go back to physiology. What is your first music? It is the relationship of your heartbeat in the womb against your mother's heartbeat, and the thrum of her blood. Yeshush, yeshush, yeshush. That is our first music. And that's where we learn to become human. And we need that. We need Anthony, I think it's Anthony Oliver, wonderful song, but there's so much more. We need to be making and sharing and singing and laughing at these fools who think that they're gods and who want to turn us into worms. They're ridiculous. I mean, really, they're very powerful, and they've got private jets that they pollute the skies with when they go to Davos. Isn't that lovely? They're fools. And we need to call them out and say, you're a fool. Get out of my face. Get out of my life. Get out of my nursery.
You just answered the question I was going to ask, because I was going to ask, why are they doing this? And yes, of course, we can see it's about killing and controlling. But do they really want to live in a world without humanity? Well, obviously, yes, because psychopaths. So you answered that question brilliantly. I want to ask Dexter. Dexter a question, because he comes from a continent where most people are much more closely aligned with nature and spirituality than in most other continents. And I was wondering, because I've been talking to a lot of people recently who are taking a much closer look at what's going on in Africa than ever before, like in Niger and in other countries, where people are standing up and trying to get rid of those who colonize them. Is this a general movement that's going on there? Are they really becoming aware of the fact that they need to free themselves finally of these shackles, Dexter?
Most definitely, Rainer. And it's a question that I also, I won't say a question, but I will actually get back to Rima, so that you, Rima, can actually give in context. What does it mean? Because you've used the word, and that is a mental colonization. And then we know there is this physical colonization. So the question that you've posed, Rainer, that clearly comes down to a physical colonization of nearly all the countries on the African continent. So in a nub, I will say that yes, there is a movement from the south to the north, from the west to the east, when it comes to that it is now time that Africa needs to decolonize itself. And I like what you've also said, Rima, and that is to the extent where you've mentioned that one of the things that Africa get to realize, and when I talk about Africa, I talk about the citizens, the populace of Africa, is that they are also of the view that the government has sold out. So what that merely comes down to is that, yes, in a sense, they have been decolonized, but in a sense as well that the governments are still playing along the tune of the people who has colonized them from the onset. And hence why we get now this young generation in Africa standing up where they say enough is enough. And where they say that we need to now decolonize our mindsets. And if we don't decolonize our minds, then the next generation is going to sit with exactly the same kind of colonization, although not physically in shackles, although not where you physically see basically the colonizer standing behind you. But now it's a matter whereby the mind has been so indoctrinated that it's extremely difficult for future generations to really break free of their shackles. So what I want to get to, Rima, is that you've mentioned the mental colonization, and I'm bringing in the physical colonization, and that is the thing that we in Africa has actually struggled with for eons of years. So what I would like to find out, how does one go about to decolonize the mind? Because like, that is where we as Africans are now at the moment, is that you get certain factions of the citizens that are very comfortable. So in a sense, one can say their minds has been so colonized, and they say, no, there's no reason for you to fight. You can see that we are free. But at the end of the day, that's not real freedom that we are talking about. So how can one go about in order then to really decolonize that mental stronghold in humans' minds?